again, everybody. This is Jason with HNS Games. Thought I'd hit you up with another Design Diary episode. This being Design Diary episode number 2. Hope everybody's been well since I last talked to you guys. Needless to say, progress on Ostfront is coming along nicely. We've been hitting this thing every day for probably the past 3 months, and it even goes back further than that. But as far as a nose to the grind, past 3 months, nothing but Ostfront, and looks like it's going to be that way all the way through to the finish line. So today, what we have is the second installment of Ostfront Design Diary, and we'll have some visual stuff to go through, walk you through, and explain. Try and give you a feel of where the game is at this point, and go from there. So we'll start out with what we're still calling the viewfinder, or I guess you could call it the base map. The base map is actually what fits in the viewfinder, and the viewfinder being, of course, the information that frames the map, which is in the center. And if for those of you that have not seen Design Diary episode 1, I'll do a brief recap of some of the stuff. Nothing too in-depth, because that stuff is already out there, but just so you know what I'm talking about, I'll recap a little bit. But what you're looking at here again is the actually, this is the summer base map, which is framed in the viewfinder. And we do have duplicates when it comes to the base maps and the terrain tiles that go on them. That's to say winter and summer, so we've got seasons in this thing. And that's pretty cool. What else? And we'll come back to this in a second. Stuff you're going to need, and you are going to need to do maybe a little shopping when you get this game. You're going to want a dry erase pen. Now, it's not mandatory, but and most of you have one of these anyway. But as far as options go, and let me stress, I can't stress this enough, actually. This game is full of options, and you know the old adage, you can't please everybody all the time. Well, we're trying to please quite a few of you by providing options, and we'll get more into that as well. But by way of keeping track of information, one of your options is to use a dry erase pen. Why is this a good thing? Why would you do this? Well, a number of reasons. It's easy, it's fast. You look in the bottom right, you can see the plexiglass. You just write right on it, wipe it off. Things are changed easily enough in that respect. But also, I know there's a lot of you, and we're not exactly sure how this is going to be released. Tentatively, we're looking at a limited print run of some hard copies, and when those sell out, going to PDF format. Now, none of this is written in stone, but that's tentatively what we're looking at, and of course, everything's subject to change as usual. But yeah, so not everybody likes to mount counters. There are those of you that love it, but there are those of you that hate it as well. And when it comes to the print and play version, which at some point in time, I can almost guarantee this will become print and play. For those of you that don't want to mount your counters, that have a hell of a time doing it, that feel like you're left with some crappy looking counters when you're done because they didn't come out right or whatever, well, there's if you decide to go this route, you have the option of mounting just a bare minimum of counters, and then keeping track of everything else with your dry erase pen. Dice, of course you're going to need dice, and you're going to need a 1 die 8, 2 die 10, and 2 die 6. Now, and I'll get to this later as well, that's just for the, how do I put this, the primary combat engine, which is not the only combat engine. A ton of optional rules here. In fact, the entire combat engine can be taken out and replaced with the quote-unquote buckets of dice system. So for those of you that like the buckets of dice system, you have that option. For those of you that don't, there is a combat results table in here. But again, I'm stressing options, so you can go either way with this thing. What else do we have? Let's move right along. The game is really shows its full beauty when you conduct the optional terrain placement. What that entails is cutting out your terrain tiles, and then following the terrain placement engine so that they can be placed on your map. Now, again, for those of you that don't want to do this, well, you don't have to. We've provided 7 scenarios in here with terrain already configured, so all you do is you need to copy the way the terrain is configured within the scenarios, and so that's taken care of for you. Also, you'll notice some the information on the viewfinder marked in this scenario card. This isn't finalized yet, but some of this information, again, for ease of play to get right into it, some of this information will already be figured for you on these scenario cards so that you don't have to roll for it. Otherwise, again, if you want to, by all means, feel free to do so. But for those of you, again, that don't want to roll for every single thing, you can follow the scenario card to the letter and just get right down to it. So what else? I guess I should back up and add that this is takes place in 1941, Eastern Front. And if you'll notice at the upper right of the scenario card, kind of a linear path which takes you further and further eastward, assuming you survive. And these scenario cards are not finalized, subject to change as well. But that's pretty much it. Like I said, 7 of these things will take you through from June, July to December. Full campaign lasts the entire year, or you can engage in the shorter campaign, Operation Typhoon, which I think is entails 4 scenario cards. Or you can do single engagements, and of course you'll have to roll for everything yourself. But that's where the beauty of this thing is. What else? The counters. Again, these are, to be honest with you, I think these are really the only counters you're going to need to mount if you choose to go that route. If you choose to mount more, tons of counters are included, but it's not mandatory that you mount them or use them, which is what the dry erase pin is for. But you're going to want to mount these, and you'll need them to place them on the map so you know where your troops are. What else do we have here? This is a scenario. This is a unit card, and what happened with this is over time, through a process of evolution, we had scenario sheets and didn't even realize it, but what we were creating is scenario cards. And when we got done with the roster sheets, when we got done with the roster sheets, we realized one day, looking at it, that what we had in front of us was unit cards, and all you had to do was cut them out. And we currently have our playtest unit cards in little plastic holders. You can find these any number of places, but you know, the little plastic holders that you keep, say, baseball cards in. And I guess if you really want to add to the shopping list and blow it out, I suppose you could add card holders to the shopping list. It's not mandatory, but well, there's a lot of you out there that are finicky about the cards, and of course this will protect them during play. But this is a unit card. This is a German leader, and if you'll look on the left, that is the back of the card. Every card will look like this on the back. In the middle, is the leader card proper. Um, you've got, and I already described this in the last design diary, but there's been some changes since. If you look at the little uh, vertical square um, thing on the right of the leader card, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them. That is the victory point track, which allows you to accumulate victory points when you do the campaign game, which in turn allows you to uh, increase in rank. Um, also allows, in a roundabout way, allows you to attain awards, which is what's on the right. Uh, but the other information, if you look in right on the portrait of the leader, you'll see a P in the upper left. That represents pinned. The S represents suppressed. The B represents broken. The NAM represents non-assault movement, and the W represents wounded. Now, if you choose to mount counters, you can just place them on the leader card. If not, just mark the appropriate box. The 4 white boxes at the bottom are for additional information to be printed on the card as well with a dry erase pen. And the 1, 2, 3, 6 boxes just under the leader portrait and above the 4 white boxes is a type of health meter, more or less. What else do we have? Moving right along, we've got squad unit cards, and German squads are able to deploy. That is to say, they're able to break down, split into 2 smaller, I guess you call them half squads. Pretty much similar to the leader card, except you'll notice at the bottom they already have the 4 white boxes marked. So a squad that would have a light machine gun, take your dry erase pen and just run an X on the light machine gun box. Or again, if you choose to mount some of the beautiful counters that will be included in the game, simply place the counter over the appropriate box. The gray hexagon that covers is overshadowing the 4 white boxes at the bottom is for optional. At least right now, it's an optional rule. But machine guns have an arc of fire that need to be kept track of. That arc of fire is established upon firing. Firing outside of that arc of fire results in a penalty. And so that's pretty much that for the unit cards, German unit cards, that is to say. And then we have Soviet unit cards, a little bit different. Same thing on the back. You got your in the middle here, Soviet leader unit card. And if you'll notice on he's got a question mark and an exclamation mark. Why? This has to do with spotting, which takes place at the beginning of the game. You have to spot the Soviets before you can fire at them. I think there's 3 various states that Soviets can be in regarding this. Hidden and unspotted, and I guess revealed, you would call it. So you would mark that information accordingly, or place a counter on the card. And then here is a kind of a breakdown of a card for those of you that care to pore over this. Again, I've already said pinned, suppressed, broken. All listed here for you, and this is all in the rule book. In fact, this is taken from the rule book. What else do we have? Let's go back to the viewfinder, which is really the information that frames the base map. And the base map you saw earlier had nothing on it, and if you look close enough, you can tell that these terrain tiles have been placed on it. They don't exactly line up. Now they will if you're careful. But I did this in an effort to demonstrate how they were placed. But you'll have a ton of terrain tiles to place, and if you need as many as you need or want, just make more copies. But that's how that works. And you look at the top. I have outlined in red. That's your monthly track. You'll begin, if you start the campaign, full campaign, you'll begin in June, July, and make your way all the way to November and December. And then, of course, the Operation Typhoon campaign is going to be a little shorter. I think you start in September. At least that's where we have it now. What else? The next outline is next bit of information outlined in red is your victory point track. As the Germans, when you accumulate victory points for, say, elimination of enemy strength points or the attainment and control of areas, which I'll, if I can remember, I'll explain that as well. You move your victory point marker to the right. As Soviets gain victory points, you'll move the victory point marker to the left. And pretty straightforward stuff. If you're to the right of 0 by the end of the game, you win. What else do we have here? We have the weather track outlined in red, everything from clear to snow. Might look like a lot of variations, but a number of these things will affect smoke, spotting, artillery, airstrikes, etc., as well as movement. And we have the sudden death track. You'll start all the way at the left, and then at the end of each turn, roll 1 dice 6, and that is how many spaces you progress. So it's kind of a hard to predict when it comes to how long a particular engagement will last or when it will end. Next image we have deals with your initial deployment. So when the game starts, your German platoon will be either stopped or non-moving, assault moving or non-assault moving. That is rolled for. Then we have the expected level of enemy resistance, light, medium, or heavy, which will in turn determine how many Soviets get placed on the map. After that, we come to the type of engagement. So there are 3 types of engagements or battles, and you have advanced, battle, or counterattack. The type of engagement will determine just what the Soviets are likely to do or not do. So it affects the die rolls differently. That brings us to artillery and airstrike. Reminder, boxes. So yes, there's air support and artillery in this thing. And then the next outline is your Soviet action squad action point track. So depending on how many Soviet squads activate, you will roll accordingly to determine how many action points you are allowed for that turn. Leaders always get 2 action points, and that brings us to the sniper activation track. You will roll at the beginning of an engagement, mark the number accordingly, and then when you roll on the sudden death track below your 1 dice 6, if you roll the sniper activation number, some interesting things will happen. And of course, German leader action point track again will receive 2 always, and the German squad action point track, again, you will roll 1 dice 6 based on the number of things to determine your squad action points. And another interesting thing, if a German squad is within command range of his leader, he can just siphon off the leader's action points if the leader has them to spare. So that brings us to part 2. Alright, part 2. We'll look at the brain of the game, and I've held off on revealing this till now. In fact, I'm still wondering if I should reveal it, but this is really the underlying personality of the thing, as I said, the brain of the game. This is what determines where the Soviets are placed, as well as how the terrain is placed or configured when using the random terrain generator. You've got your 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 areas, lettered A through F. Within each area are a number of zones. You will roll on this, and based on the rolls, will determine where the Soviets are placed. So, for example, go to the next screen. Let's say we have a Soviet squad. We roll a 1-8 and get a 3. You'll see the 1-5. That means 1 through 5. He's placed in that sector. So then once we know the sector, we will roll to see which zone in that sector the squad is placed. You'll see the blue circled 2. We'll know that he is placed in that particular hex. Once that Soviet squad is placed, you roll 1-6. And the result of 6 means that any troops that need further to be placed will be stacked in the same hex. Otherwise, you do the same thing. So for sake of this example, let's say we rolled a 3, which means we do not stack. We do the entire thing all over again, roll 1-8, roll a 6. So we would place the squad in sector 6, roll it again, get a 1. We would place it in zone 1 or the hex that is marked 1. And that is how you place your Soviet squads. Seems pretty random, and it is, but placement is geared more towards the front of your platoon. So if you look in the center of this hex template, you will always deploy as the German platoon in the center. So right away, when each engagement kicks off, you're already in the thick of things. And I talk about this in some of the design notes that I've already written. A lot of you might be looking at this going, my God, look how small this thing is. Well, roughly based on a hex, which is, I think, 40 meters, you're looking at about 2.5 by 2 football fields, something like that. So more than enough room for a couple of platoons to duke it out. But again, you'll place your German platoon in the center, and the hex template is designed so that more often than not, Soviets will pop up to your front, less often to your flanks, and even less often in your rear, but that is still a possibility. Now, as far as entering the map as a German platoon, we consider that, but you enter the map that really kind of negates anything developing around you, and we really wanted the player to feel like he's being immersed in a cauldron of chaos, if you will. Things are developing all around you. It's a situation, like I say, that is already in progress, if you want to look at it like that. And that coincides with the size of the map. Sure, you can do a bigger map. That's not an issue. You do as big a map as you want. But a smaller map cuts out the preliminary maneuvering that takes place before an engagement, and I understand there's plenty of you that enjoy that. But again, this is a different type of game, and this is something that literally throws you into the midst of the action, which is already unfolding. So that's what we're going with here. So what it would look like after placing your troops according to the hex template, if you transpose that to the base map, it looks something like that. You got your German platoon deployed in the center with the Soviets deployed thusly. And as a German platoon, your platoon is comprised of 3 squads and a leader. You could face anywhere from 2 to, I think, 6 Soviet squads, so there will be times in which you are outnumbered. Fear not. I trust you guys will use tactics to the best of your ability to overcome the imbalance. Additionally, the Germans have a number of things that they can do that the Soviets cannot do. This is to reflect the nature of the structure of the German platoon and their ability to overcome a number of things, as well as just simply the way a German platoon is trained and structured. And you got to remember this is 1941. So yes, the Soviets are there, but they're really more or less disorganized and still kind of reeling from the purge that took place regarding all the leaders, and at least most of the decent leaders being just wiped out. So poor leadership, all this stuff is reflected in the game when it comes to the nature of how the Soviets will act when it comes to die rolls, the charts that direct their actions, etc., as well as the options that are given to you as a German platoon. So that's how that works. And then this, once the game kicked off, you would roll to see who had initiative. Let's say the Germans gained initiative, then they could do any number of things, which would be further determined by how many action points they had. Um, Fear not. If you didn't have enough action points for everybody to move, well, you can group move for a discount and get out of the open there. What else? The Soviets, you would, if you'll notice, the two, that would be second squad, the leader, and underneath him is actually first squad. You're going to throw these chits in a cup and conduct a random draw to see which Soviet unit activates. So you'll have a leader chit, a first squad, and a second squad chit in a cup. When it becomes the Soviet's turn, you're going to conduct a random draw to see, again, which Soviet squad activates. Then based on the type of engagement, let's say this is an advance, you would roll under the advanced chart to see what the Soviet does. That could be a fire, move, do nothing. If you roll on the move, if the result is a move action, you've got another subchart that determines just what the move is, and that could be forward, backward, or lateral. And if it's a lateral move, it's not really straight up left or right, but you're going to move clockwise or counterclockwise according to the closest known enemy unit. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a flavor of the game and what you're dealing with. Leaving a ton of stuff out, I guess you could say on purpose. I mean, you can only cover so much in this thing, and what's the point of covering the entire thing? There'd be no point in getting the game. But again, thought I'd give you a taste of what you're in for with this. And when it comes to terrain, you got a number of things to choose from when it comes to terrain placement, especially when, and I guess I should add that, this thing is not just a game that you learn and treat it as if it is the Word of God, and you can't do anything but what is specified in the rules. No, not at all. There are options galore in here. If you don't like the way something goes, more than likely there's an option to do it a different way. If not, house rule it. You're not going to hurt anybody's feelings if you don't do it exactly the way it is written in the rules. I guess you could look at the rules as a more or less a suggestion of how to play the thing. But again, if you don't feel that something is right in your opinion, or you're uncomfortable with the way something is, feel free to tweak it. I mean, that's part of the fun of any game. What else? So yeah, what you're looking at here, again, like I said a second ago, is it's not just a game that you follow to the letter, but is I've called it a construction kit in the past. I've called it a build-a-game system that is inherent within this thing. That's not hype. I mean, that's all here. You have at your fingertips with this thing the ability to construct your own scenarios, your own troops, the terrain, configure it the way you want it, want it configured, it's all here. It's all up to you. The decisions are left in your hands. And I also should add that this is a true AI system in here. This is not a quasi AI system. This is not a, pardon the French, but a half-ass AI system. This is a full-on AI system here that runs the Soviets. Again, everything from movement to fire to doing nothing, even the placement of the troops. As much as possible, this is all conducted by charts, flow charts, die rolls. You know, when if a Soviet unit is going to op fire, consult your flow chart. See if he does. There's no guarantees in here either, I should add. So again, this is a true AI system in here. Decisions are left to you as the Germans. Very little when it comes to die rolls to determine things as the Germans. Conversely, as the Soviets, very little to no decision making involved here. So again, true AI system. And so that brings us to a number of points I'd like to cover. Again, you've got two combat engines here. The first one is your combat results table. Fine if you like that. If you don't, that's fine too. There is an alternate combat engine here that allows you to use the, again, quote-unquote buckets of dice route. So you've got options there. Two ways to determine casualties. Now, the inherent method is to place a number of pinned, suppressed, and broken markers in a cup. When a hit is taken, you draw one of these, which determines any further result of that hit. If you don't like that, if that's too random for you, well, there's another method in here that you can choose, which kills off some of that randomness. What else? Tons of charts, and most of these will affect the Soviets, what they do, how they fight. Tons and tons of charts, which I guess could be good or bad. Let's hope you guys like charts, but it's necessary for this thing to work properly. You can't get around it. Player aids. You got a double-sided full sheet player aid with all your little tidbits on there to help you keep track of things and remember things. There's a lot of stuff in here to keep track of. Tons of things you'll forget. Don't worry. Again, you've got your player aids to help you through it. Flow charts. Got flow charts in here. Again, to help determine what a Soviet unit will do, what it won't do. No guarantees, and this reflects that. So flow charts as well. Finally, before I get out of here, and for those of you that have actually stuck around through this, the counters that are included in this thing, at least where it stands now, for those of you that do want to mount counters, you got options, because we've got your basic German counters. There will be an alternate kind of deluxe batch of German counters. You've got your Soviet counters, but this is more from the German point of view, so we're leaning with the goodies and stuff more towards the Germans. So that's what you're looking at with the counters. Tons of information counters, but again, if you don't like mounting counters, probably 75–80% of the stuff can be kept track of with a dry erase pen. That saves time. That allows you to jump right in a little bit quicker and get going with things. Maybe learn the game a bit before you bother mounting counters. So we'll close it there, and still looking at a tentative release date of this Christmas. That is to say, if everything goes well. Alright, thanks for watching, and we'll let you get out of here. See you later.